Okay, so this is our seniors after the FAFSA college applications workshop. And the first thing we wanted to do was start off with a video. So I'll go ahead and play that.
So you filled out the FAFSA. Now what? The information you submitted will be processed by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, and the colleges or career schools you listed will be notified so they can begin their process of awarding aid. The great thing about filling out the FAFSA online is that you can check its processing status immediately. This comes in handy when you're thinking, I wonder if it went through. Within a few days of filling out the FAFSA, you'll get your Student Aid Report, or SAR. You'll hear that abbreviation again, so just remember, your SAR is your Student Aid Report. Basically, it summarizes all of the information you submitted on the FAFSA. You can access your SAR online at fafsa.gov using your FSA ID, which is your username and password. Check your SAR for any mistakes. Then make corrections if you need to, but only if you estimated your tax information or provided incorrect information the day you filled out the FAFSA. On your SAR, you'll see reference to your EFC, or expected family contribution. This number is used to determine your eligibility for federal student aid. It doesn't mean you actually have to contribute that amount. The financial aid office at each college or career school you list on your FAFSA will receive your information. Each office will then use your FAFSA information to determine how much aid you can get at that school. It's possible that your college or career school may require you to verify the information you submitted on your FAFSA. If that happens, your school will tell you what you need to do. Once you're accepted into a college or career school, you'll get an award letter from a school's financial aid office that explains the aid being offered to you. We'd recommend comparing award letters from multiple schools. That way you can make the best decision for your situation. If you have any questions about your financial aid offer, contact the school's financial aid office. If your aid offer includes a federal loan and you're a first-time borrower, there are a few more steps before you get your loan. You'll need to complete entrance counseling and sign the Master Promissory Note, or MPN, which is your agreement to pay back the loan. Your school will provide you with the necessary information. So how do you get your money? Well, usually your grants and loans will be applied to tuition, fees, and other charges on your student account first. Then any leftover money is paid to you. Work-study funds are earned throughout the term. Remember, filling out the FAFSA is not a one-time thing. You must complete it every year you attend school. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
Okay, so that's just a presentation that we really like to use, a video, just because it has so much information. But I know there is a lot of information on there, so if you're worried that you didn't get that information, don't worry, we're going to be breaking it down in this.
When you fill out the FAFSA, you'll be asked several questions that will determine whether you are an independent or dependent student. This is an important distinction, because if you're a
Anyways, we'll be breaking down the whole entire video. So if you had questions on something that was in the video, don't worry, we'll go ahead and go over it. So one of the first things, you all should have already received a financial aid award letter from your college, where they have offered you a combination of awards. So you probably got grants, loans, work study, all of the above maybe, and you are going to be able to kind of say if you want a specific award or if you don't want it. So I don't know if y'all remember, but CalSoap did come into a bunch of schools and classrooms in the spring of your junior year, and we went over the different types of loans and grants and all that stuff. I'm not sure if you remember, but I know that was a year ago, so we'll definitely be going over it. Let's see, so first thing I wanted to talk about was FAFSA. So students, you should know by now that you're either going to be completing the FAFSA or the CAIDA, the California Dream Act application. If you have a social security number, you'll be doing the FAFSA, and if you don't have a social security number, you'll be applying for the CAIDA. And they both are just financial aid applications that you have to renew every single year. So y'all are seniors going into your freshman year of college, and every single year that you're in college, you're going to want to make sure that you submit that FAFSA or that CAIDA by that March 2nd deadline. If you're attending community college and you have not done your FAFSA or your CAIDA, you still have time to do it. So you have until September to do your FAFSA or your CAIDA in order to get your 2 years for free at that community college. So I know a lot of you are probably familiar with our 2-year California Promise program. So if you are interested in that, just make sure that you do your FAFSA or your CAIDA. So students will be getting a student aid report if you filed the FAFSA, and on here you will be getting what the student aid report does. It kind of just tells you everything that you submitted. So you get one, and all of the colleges that you listed. You can list up to about 10 colleges. And all of those colleges will get that information. And you can always go back and make corrections if there is a mistake. Definitely take a look at that. And if there is a specific mistake, you want to go back and fix it. It's not the end of the world if you've made a mistake. We've all made a mistake on ours. One time I accidentally added an extra 0 to my parents' income, so I definitely had to go back and fix that. Just make sure that you are double checking so that they can get you your accurate financial aid summary. Every time you make a change, you're going to want to make sure that you submit it. So if you do not submit it every time you make a change, it won't update. So that's really important to know. And you can update and change and add information to the FAFSA or the CAIDA. So whether it's income or college choices or housing plans, any of that stuff. You'll also get a California aid report where they'll tell you about if you got a CalGrant or a middle class scholarship eligibility, and you will also need to go ahead and go over that for any errors, and you can definitely make corrections on it as well. And I know this seems like a lot of information, but I promise we're gonna be going over it as well. So just before we go into it, I wanted to kind of go over the formula that colleges use for your financial need, just because it's been a while. So just remember that colleges use the formula cost of attendance minus family contributions to determine how much financial need you have and how much financial aid they'll be offering you. So cost of attendance includes tuition and fees, housing, books, food, transportation, and personal expenses. So if you were to Google a college, right, let's say if you are going to Sac State, if I was to Google cost of attendance at Sacramento State, it would probably say around $25,000. It does not really cost an average student $25,000 to go to Sac State, but the reason why the cost of attendance is so high is because Sacramento State is estimating or overestimating, right? So they're saying as if you are living in the most expensive apartment or the dorms, you're buying brand new books, you're buying food every single day, you're driving to school every day and getting a parking permit, and you're buying a bunch of new things for your personal expenses. So cost of attendance doesn't necessarily, it doesn't, sometimes it's not as accurate as it is, right? One of the main things that the price of something that stays the same is really our tuition and fees. Tuition and fees is something that we cannot change at all, right? Whether I go to Sac State or Davis or any of these schools, they have a set amount of tuition and fees that are always going to stay the same, and that I have to pay that. But housing and books and all that stuff I can take care of, right? I might live at home and commute, which is a lot of things that our students at Sacramento State does. I might, or if I do move out, I might live in an apartment with a bunch of people, so I have lower rent. For books, I might buy used books, I might borrow books, I might share books with my friends. For food, maybe I'm packing a lunch and I'm not buying lunch every day. For transportation, a lot of schools are now offering free public transportation for students, so I might be using that to my advantage and really using our public transportation. And then probably not buying new clothes every single day to go to class. So there are many ways to cut down the cost of attendance. So you don't, if you see a number, it says Sac State costs $25,000 to go there, I don't want you to get scared because it won't cost you that much. So the types of financial aid, and this will be on your financial aid award letter. So all of you should have gotten this, and the reason why I want to break this down is because you probably have a financial aid award letter from a school, and maybe some of you might have been confused or just forgot what all of these things were. So the different types of financial aid we have are grants, WorkStudy, and loans, right? So when we do our formula cost of attendance minus EFC, which is how much our families can contribute towards our education, equals financial need, when the students or when colleges are packaging us, like packaging our financial aid award, they're going to give us awards that are grants, WorkStudy, and loans, kind of a combination of it all. So first of all, grants do not have to be repaid, right? We love grants. So whenever you hear the word grant, you always want to, get excited, because grants are based on our free monies that you can use at school. So they're based on financial needs. So not everybody will be offered grants. So I might be offered grants, but Alondra might not be offered grants. Or potentially I might be offered a little bit less in grants and Alondra might be offered more grants because she has more financial need. We have state grants, which is our CalGrants, federal grants, which are usually our Pell Grants and our WorkStudy. And then we also have university-based aid, which is our CSU State University grant, or our UC grants, which is the blue and gold program that the UCs offer. For our California Dream Act students, you are eligible for grants. You're eligible for the state and the university grants, but not the federal grants. So that's just something to keep in mind, but I don't want you to get discouraged, because usually the majority of financial aid that students receive are Cal grants, and that's what helps California students pay their tuition and fees. So don't worry about that. Okay. And let me know if I'm going too fast or if you all need more of an explanation, any questions or anything like that. So this is just a little picture of the types of CalGrant. So in your financial aid award summary, it'll tell you what kind of CalGrant you were offered if you were offered one. And I just want to go over and tell you exactly what that means. So if you were offered CalGrant A, that means you're headed to a four-year college. You had a 3.0 or above after your junior year, and you are middle income. What CalGrant A does is it pays off UC and CSU tuition completely. So whether you're going to UC Santa Barbara or San Diego State, wherever you're going, you don't have to worry about paying tuition. So usually tuition's like $5,000 or $6,000 probably a semester. You don't have to worry about that because your CalGrant A will cover it. So that's awesome news. We love that. If you're going to a private college, it'll cover up to about $9,000 of tuition, and then the rest is going to be on you to cover that, whether it's with your own money or loans or anything else. For CalGrant B, that's for our students headed off to a community college or a four-year college. It's usually for our lower income students, and what CalGrant B does is it also covers tuition at a UC or a CSU or the $9,000 at a private college. But since it's for our lower income students, CalGrant B also gives our students about a $1,600 stipend, a $1,600 check per year. And what that does is that's just money for you. So let's say that could be money for you to use towards housing, or maybe you're going to Sac State and staying local. That would be, you would use that money to maybe purchase a parking permit, or use that for your car insurance, stuff like that. So that money, that's extra money for you to use towards your education. And then lastly, we have our CalGrant C, which is for our community college students or our students going towards a technical vocational school. There's no set GPA, but they do offer up to $2,400 in financial aid. So that's also something to keep in mind. Okay, so the middle class scholarship is for our students attending a CSU or a UC campus, and it's for families who with an income of up to $177,000. It's for U.S. citizens, permanent residents, or AB 540 students, and California residents. So what the middle class scholarship does, it's kind of like a coupon code. So you know how the CalGrants actually cover complete CSU and UC tuitions? The middle class scholarship does not cover that, but what it does is that it will kind of give you a percentage off. So depending on your income or your parents' income and how much your financial need is necessary, it'll give you between 10 to 40% off of mandatory system-wide fees. So this is for our students who are not eligible for a CalGrant, but they still need some financial assistance. So this is also a really good opportunity for our students, and it's based on income and assets of your parents. or of your families. And then federal grants can be used anywhere. So we talked about CalGrants, and those are only allowed to be used in the state of California, which is why we talk about a lot of our local, like California in-state schools, just because if you stay in state, you're going to be offered a lot more financial aid than if you were to go out of state. But federal grants are going to be able to use everywhere. The main one is our federal Pell Grant, which is up to $6,000 per year. And that money is just for you to spend on, once again, your expenses, right? Whether you're dorming or living at home and you need to buy your books, all of that stuff. And once again, in order to be eligible for this, you just need to file your FAFSA. So WorkStudy is also a type of a federal grant, and what WorkStudy is, it's a part-time job, and it can be either on campus or off campus. So in your financial aid award letter, you should be, it should tell you if you were awarded WorkStudy or not, and usually you'll be offered about $2,000 to $5,000 per year of WorkStudy. And the way WorkStudy works is that you are gonna go get a job, so you would go find your job, whether it's on campus or off campus, and let them know that you're a WorkStudy student. Rather than that company paying you, the government is paying you as it's a grant. So for example, let's say you end up working at the Starbucks on campus, rather than Starbucks paying you your paycheck, the WorkStudy would cover it. So you would have up to about probably $5,000, and once that $5,000 is spent on you, then that's between you and your employer, if your employer wants to hire you out of their budget, or if they're gonna wait until next school year. So WorkStudy is a really good opportunity for our students. I highly recommend, on your FAFSA, it's gonna ask you if you're interested in it. I highly recommend you check it, and you might be offered it. It's a really good way for you all to get jobs on campus or even off campus, and places are more likely to hire you when you're WorkStudy because they're not paying you out of pocket. So when I was an undergrad, I was actually a WorkStudy student, and I worked at an elementary school. And once I ran out of my WorkStudy money, my supervisor actually just hired me on and paid me out of his budget. So it's a really good way for your supervisor to kind of see you and see if they like how you work and potentially give you another job after your WorkStudy is over. So it's awesome, and I really encourage students to try to accept it if they can. Okay, the next thing you'll be offered are federal student loans. So the main type of loans that you'll be offered are subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, and Parent Plus loans. And once again, this is all on your financial aid award summary letter. So if you have that out, or if you've looked at it, you can kind of follow along so you can see what you've been offered. The first one, if you have to take out loans, we recommend taking out your subsidized loans. Subsidized loans are what we call super loans. So loans, if you were to take out a loan, you have to pay interest month to month. Like if I was to go to a bank and take a loan out, I would be paying interest every month until I pay back all that money. The way subsidized loans work is that the government will be paying your interest while you are enrolled in college and for 6 months after graduation. So you're not paying any interest until 6 months after you graduate. And the reason they do that is because hopefully by 6 months after you graduate, you've secured a position where you can start paying back your loans. So if you have to take out loans, definitely try to take out a subsidized loan. The other loan that is offered is an unsubsidized loan. So unsubsidized loans is where their interest is still accruing as you are in college. So let's say I take out $3,000 my freshman year, my interest is adding on my freshman year, my second year, my third, and my fourth year, and after I graduate as well. So we highly encourage students that if you are offered a subsidized loan and you need to take out a loan, definitely take that over an unsubsidized loan. And then our Parent Plus loans are direct loans that parents of dependent undergrad students can use to help pay for college or career school. So these are loans that your parents would be taking out in their name, and they would also be paying interest. So they would also be paying interest as you're in college. There's no grace period for that either. But if you are offered a unsubsidized loan and not a subsidized loan, we still highly recommend taking out a federal student loan rather than going to your local bank, just because they usually have lower interest rates and you have up to 10 years to pay up to 10 years to pay them. So you generally, our federal student loans are still a better way to take out a loan than going to like a normal bank or financial institution. Okay, this is just a summary of a sample award notice. So you all probably got a financial aid award notice that looked like this. So I just kind of wanted to go over it. It should have your cost of attendance, which is about $26,000. So for example, this person's probably going to a CSU, and then the EFC. So the government estimated that their family can contribute up to $3,000. And the school needs to come up with $23,000 to offer the student so they can go to the school. And the student was offered a CSU University grant for $5,000. Definitely want to accept that because grant is free money. They were also offered the CalGrant B, which pays is paying off the tuition at a CSU and also getting your extra $1,600. So definitely accept that. And the student also got a federal Pell Grant, which is also free money, which is about $6,000. So the student got a lot of grants, and if they are staying at home, or even if they're moving out, honestly, they got a lot of money, and potentially they might not need to be taking out their loans. The cool thing also about loans is that usually when you're, I don't know if a lot of you have logged into your student portals. If you haven't, I definitely recommend that. But when you log onto your portals, you'll be given the opportunity to either accept or deny a loan. I definitely recommend accepting all of your grants because that is free money. But for your loans, you can either accept them or deny them. If you don't need your loan right now, you can just leave it, just leave it in your portal. You don't have to accept or deny. The reason why is because let's say you have an emergency, something happens, maybe your car broke down or somebody stole your laptop, something like that, and you need a loan in the middle of a school year, you can go back and accept a loan. So if you deny it, it won't be offered for you. It won't be offered to you that year. But if it's just in your portals and you haven't accepted it, you can go back and accept it. And then also, if you notice here, the student was offered $3,500 in the subsidized loan. Let's say you don't need $3,500, do not accept a loan more than what you need. So if you only need $1,000, just accept $1,000, because if you borrow $3,500, you're gonna have to pay back $3,500. So we want you to just get in that habit of borrowing what you need, okay? And then this is just another picture of what your financial aid award notices probably look like, and it really goes into detail about why what exactly is coming from the cost of attendance. So this one's talking about the fees and room and board, and then also what kind of financial aid you were offered, and kind of a little summary of the loans. Do we have any questions yet? Okay, awesome. So this is a Web Grants for Students. All of you should have created a Web Grants for Students account after you did either the FAFSA or the CAIDA. So if you go onto this website, it'll actually tell you exactly what CalGrant you were offered and what middle class scholarship you were offered, and they completely revamped it. So it's a really cool website, and you can kind of see what you'll be offered, what you were offered, and kind of how long you have in your Cal Grants and all that stuff. So if you haven't already created an account, I definitely recommend you do so. If you haven't submitted your FAFSA or your CAIDA, you won't be able to create one. So just make sure you do that first. You submit your FAFSA or your CAIDA, and then you create a Web Grants account. Okay. So that was just a summary of kind of the different types of financial aid you were offered. I really wanted to go over that because I know all of you probably have received your financial aid award notice, and you probably don't remember our presentation from last year. And then these next couple of things are just going to be, they're more of kind of tips and like to-do list items that you should be keeping an eye out for. This is for college financial aid, the College Financial Aid Office. So each time a correction is made to the FAFSA or the CAIDA, the college receives it. So remember, I told you when you hit submit, the college will be receiving that. And colleges are going to use that to determine the type of financial aid you're eligible for, and kind of let you know through your student portal. So the verification process. Some of you, I highly encourage you to be checking out your student portals, and on your to-do list, you might be selected for verification. 30% of our FAFSA and CAIDA filers are selected for verification, and it's just a completely random process. You know, they'll kind of let you know that you were selected for verification. You might have to submit some documents just to verify that everything that you submitted on your FAFSA or your CAIDA is correct. So the students will be notified on their college portals, and they'll let you know what documents you need and how, what the deadline is. It's really important you keep an eye out for this and you submit documents on time, because your university aid can be affected if you miss the deadline. So you might not get a certain amount of aid, or it might be held back for you. So some typical verification forms, sometimes it's your IRS tax transcript that you have to request from the IRS. Sometimes it's just a household verification form, which asks about who's living in your household. Sometimes it's proof of legal guardianship or parent income verification. And these forms are going to be required at all schools, but if you've already decided on a school, then you just submit it to that school. And then also definitely make sure you're listing your college, your student ID number on the form. So at the very top, I would just recommend writing your student ID number. So if anything is lost or anything, they still have that. They know who it corresponds to. Okay, special circumstances. So, if you are unable to submit parent information due to special circumstances, definitely contact your financial aid office. One thing that you guys should all really be aware of is communication. It's really important to be communicating with your school if anything happens. And a lot of colleges are also offering repackaging due to the pandemic. So if you guys had like a really significant change of income because of the current pandemic that's going on, definitely reach out to your financial aid office and let them know so they can repackage you and try to help you as much as they can. Okay. And like I mentioned earlier, really the number one tip is just maintaining communication. If something happens, don't think that it's just going to go away or ignore it. Really ask questions, call the financial aid office, go to the office if you can, and really just ask questions and stay in communication, because we really want you to be able to receive your financial aid. If you are one of our homeless youth, you may need to provide proof from your high school. And for guardianship, you may need to provide court documents to the college and financial aid office. If you are an independent student, so usually that's our students with dependent children, you might be asked to provide proof of support. And then for our foster youth, definitely check on your Chafee grant, and that will be on Web Grants for Students account and application status. And then you can also change the school preference. And then if you think you are eligible for the Chafee grant and you saw that you didn't receive it, definitely contact the Web Grant CSAG and kind of see what's going on with that, because they could have made a mistake, but it's also good to get some clarification. Definitely just try to get in that habit of asking why you didn't receive it, or asking what you can do to make sure you're receiving all the financial aid you get. Okay, so after the DREAM Act application, so these are for our dreamers, you will be receiving a California Student Aid Report, and definitely, like I've mentioned earlier, you're going to be needing to review that for errors. You will still be able to create a web grants because you still have access to a CalGrant and all that stuff, and you're going to be using your DREAM Act ID number. So just make sure that if you are non-social security number students, match the name of the address of your student and your ID numbers on their transcripts. And our dreamers can also be flagged for verification, so you should also definitely be checking your portals for that. Okay, one thing that I really did want to highlight is for our dreamers to complete the AB 540 affidavit to ensure in-state tuition. So this is a form that the school should have contacted you to fill out so you can get in-state tuition. If you have not, please make sure that you contact your school. They usually have a specific office that processes this, But if you have not heard from them, definitely reach out or let one of us know, and we'll try to help you out with that. Definitely, but this is something that you should be completing, I believe, on a yearly basis. So if the school has not reached out to you about this, definitely reach out so you can fill that out. And then one thing also that is very common is that, so our male students over 18 must enroll in selective service. And one of the things that we've learned is that a lot of the times our first year Dreamer male students, they actually don't get a lot of their aid because they haven't registered for selective service or enrolled in it. So just make sure that you do, and you can find this form online or at the post office. So if you do not enroll in selective service, your aid can be withheld. So just make sure that you do that. If you have any questions about that, let me know or let Alondra know, and we'll definitely try to help you. And then this is actually the website for the AB 540 PDF. So if you want to take a picture of that or just kind of try to copy that, go ahead. You are more than welcome to do that. Okay, scholarships. So one of the last couple of things are scholarships. So students do not receive scholarships for FAFSA. That's something that you will be doing on your own. So definitely keep an eye out on scholarships and keep searching for them, especially now you all, probably know where you're headed for college, and each college actually has their own scholarship office. So you can definitely just Google, like, for example, Sacramento State Scholarship Office, and it'll tell you all of the scholarships that are offered at Sacramento State. A tip I have is, honestly, a lot of these scholarships are going to be asking for personal statements. So, if you've already written a personal statement, do not kind of like throw those away. Definitely keep those on hand, because you can definitely recycle them and kind of alter them and tweak them to fit a scholarship. So when I was an undergrad, I went to UC Davis, so I had to write a personal statement. Back then they didn't have PIQs, they had 2 personal statement questions. So I actually still have those personal statements, and I have them saved on my computer. And whenever I was applying for a scholarship, I would kind of go back and alter that to submit, because a lot of the times their scholarships are going to be asking you the same thing, right? What are you interested in? How do you plan to use your education, or name a significant challenge that has happened to you? They're usually all along the same lines. So definitely take advantage of what you've already written and try to tweak it and alter it to get some more ideas. Tips for searching scholarships. You might want to try your high school website if they were posting a bunch of local scholarships that you might be offered to. I definitely recommend applying to those local scholarships. There is a Sacramento scholarship website that you can look for local Sacramento scholarship. And even if a scholarship is only about $200 to $300, I totally recommend applying to those smaller scholarships, because the odds are that a lot of students are not applying to those scholarships because they're so little, so you might have a better chance. I remember when I was a couple years ago, I applied for a quilting scholarship. I don't know how to quilt. I've never made a quilt, but I figured, hey, a lot of students might not be applying to that. So definitely try to apply to as many as you can. Be very specific, right? Be based on, it could be when you're searching. So for example, if you're a first generation college student, definitely use that in your search. Maybe you're an excellent student and you have like a 4.0 or something like that. Definitely look merit-based or career, ethnic background, extracurriculars, religion. There's a scholarship for everything. So just, keep a search out. One thing I encourage you doing is kind of making it a to-do list. So like, for example, one thing I would do on winter breaks, during winter break, I'd have a to-do list, and my to-do list would be apply for financial aid and apply for scholarships, because that's when I would be home from college and I wouldn't have any classes to worry about. So I really wanted to take that time to apply and get all of that stuff out of the way. And these are just some scholarship websites. So the Sacramento one I was talking to you about was Sac Regional. This one, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse that I'm pointing out, but it's the very last one on the left column. So definitely check that out. Immigrants Rising is a really good opportunity, but these are just some scholarships, so feel free to take a picture of that. Okay. And then lastly, I just wanted to talk about free tuition at a California community college. So a lot of you, maybe some of you were planning on going to a 4-year, and then because of the current pandemic, you decided that you're going to hold off and go to community college, or maybe community college was your first choice anyways. It's not too late to enroll, so definitely still enroll at a community college, and you can still do your California DREAM Act application or your FAFSA. Just remember, I know I've said this like 5 times, but this is how important it is. You have to do your FAFSA or your DREAM Act in order to get your 2 years for free. If you don't do that, you're not eligible for 2 years for free at a community college. So there's 2 current programs going on. Right now, the main one is our 2-year free tuition at a community college, which is California Promise Program. You have to be a graduating senior, a first-time college student, and the main thing, so you guys all qualify for that pretty much, and the main thing is that you have to enroll in 12 or more units. So 12 units is usually about, I would say, 4 classes probably, and you have to complete the FAFSA or the CAIDA, and it's not income based. So even if you don't think you would qualify because you think that maybe you know, your family has a higher income, it's not income based at all. So you could still be eligible for it. The one that is income based is the California Promise Grant, which is previously known as the BOG waiver, and you have to apply to it, and it's based off of your income. And for this one, you don't have to be a first-time college student or anything like that. So you might apply for this like later on, like if you decide to come back to community college and you've already done your 2 years. And it's based off of your FAFSA and your CAIDA. So that is for low-income student. And then where to get help, the CalGrant Helpline, here's their phone number and their email. And then the FAFSA helpline, if you have any questions or concerns, you can definitely call them and email them. I definitely, you know, recommend that if you have any questions. So feel free to take a picture of that, so you have that number and that email. Okay. School portal. So earlier I did talk about checking your school portal. So all of you, when you back in the fall, when you did your applications, once you did your applications, you should have received an email to create your student portals. You would have gotten an ID number, and it would have been like, hey, Alondra, thanks for applying to Sac State. Here's your student ID number. Please create a student portal. And that's what you should have been checking this whole time. If you haven't checked it out or, you know, gone on it recently, I definitely recommend making it a habit that, you know, at least once a week, check your student portal and check your student email. All of you should have gotten a new email based on the school you're going to, because a lot of the times they're going to start sending communication to your UC Davis email or your Sac State email, and it's really important because you don't want to miss any deadlines. So just make sure that you're checking that email and checking that portal once a week. You know, just log on to see what's going on. Usually it'll have a to-do list for you. It'll have you know, your if you've already enrolled in classes, it'll have your class schedule for you. You can definitely follow up with EOP or honors programs, and kind of just check out, right? So go on your school's website and see what's offered for you, and you know, maybe there's programs that you didn't even know about that you're interested in. So definitely take this time to go on there. And then next step, so final transcripts and APIB scores are due, oh, that's misspelled, are due July 15th. So usually your high school transcripts will be sent by your counselor, so you don't have to worry about that. If you're feeling, you know, if you feel worried about it, you can definitely just call the school and see if they've sent, call the college and see if they've received it. But usually the high school counselors are pretty good about sending that information out. You might be asked to take a math placement test or an English placement test. If you're going to a community college, they're going to place you in math and English based on your high school class and your high school grades. But if you're going to a like a CSU or a UC, you'll probably have to take it online, and that score is going to be how they're going to place you. If you plan on moving and, you know, maybe you're going to college far away, definitely look at housing applications. It's you know, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work out with the current situation going on, but I do know that colleges are still offering housing. So just definitely, if you're interested in living on campus or anything like that, reach out to the housing department and, you know, see what exactly is going on and how's that going. And then orientation dates, you should all have probably gotten information on your orientations. I believe orientations are going to be online this summer, so highly recommend going to orientation. Orientation is where you're going to learn you're going to learn a lot about the resources available on campus. You're going to learn a lot about how to enroll in classes, what exactly you need to do. All that stuff. And if you're confused about like your major and stuff, like it'll go over your major requirements. So what exactly, I know it seems crazy to think about graduating from college since you just graduated from high school, but they'll go over your graduation requirements and what you need, and all that stuff. So if you have any questions about that, orientation is definitely the place to ask them. Orientation leaders are super well versed in all that stuff. So don't be afraid to ask questions, you know, that's what they're there for. So definitely take advantage of it. And then if you do have any questions, you can definitely email either me and Alondra. We have our emails on here, so definitely take a picture if you'd like. And then you can totally follow CalSoap on Instagram. It's at Sacramento CalSoap for any updates. We usually post, you know, upcoming deadlines or any changes or anything like that. Sometimes if we see any scholarships for our students, we'll definitely post that as well. So you can go ahead and do that. Does anybody have any questions? I know that was a really packed presentation with a lot of information, so.